Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the Underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The Underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the Underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-around good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Woo! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to the Star Wars Underworld podcast. This is your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to be talking about Andor receiving a ton of Emmy nominations. But was it enough? That's the question, because, it was the greatest show of all time. So shouldn't it be receiving the most amount of Emmy nominations of all time? We'll be diving into the weeds of that one. We also got some Ahsoka Season 2 stuff to talk about, all that, and your hashtag #SWU questions. My name is Chris. Joining me, it's my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I guess we're going to talk about the Emmys for like 2 hours, because I was telling these guys before the show, I was thinking about it this afternoon, like, oh yeah, show tonight. Looking forward to it. It'll be fun. We're going to talk about nothing. We're going to talk about nothing. There is nothing to talk about this week. But hey, we've been doing this a long time. We can figure it out. There's a beautiful thing about Star Wars. There's always something to talk about. So we'll have a great show, even if there is no news that is actually worth discussing. We'll drag out the news that there is, and then we'll find something else after that.
Amazing, as we always do. Also joining us, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? Look, what is actually discussable is is depending on your point of view, and you never know when things. And also, we've been known to actually have something to talk about, but then spend an hour talking about like one tangent. Like we're like, basically a three squirrels here, just like this thing. We're going to talk about Darth Plagueis for an hour. So who knows what could actually happen. But there has been it's been, I mean, comparatively, we've been very spoiled over the past few years, and especially the past few months, and it's been an adjustment period to go like, oh yeah, there's been not much going on, no new episodes to talk about. We've got a few months before we get any real content to actually chew on. So we'll see how it goes tonight. I don't know.
It is funny though, because like this is the longest quote unquote like gap between live action Star Wars things in quite some time. But like Andor ended in what, May?
Yeah.
And Mandalorian and Grogu comes out next May. That's like a year in between. That's just sort of how it used to be. There used to just be a year in between, but we got so used to having like a show every 4 to 6 months that I am sort of thinking like, man, how are we going to fill the time? How did we used to fill the time? We better get back to having 10 million casting rumors.
This podcast started in a time when there hadn't been live action Star Wars for many years, and there wasn't ever going to be live action Star Wars ever. We accepted that fact. We decided, hey, let's do a podcast about this thing because Star Wars. So I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that. I think we'll make it.
I mean, remember, we also used to spend an hour every week interviewing the cosplayer of the week. So that's true. That's what we used to.
I mean, that's going way. Yeah. Maybe we need to bring that back.
I don't even remember that actually.
We should bring that back. That'd be fun. We could bring back the Clone Wars commentaries. We would do a commentary track for a Clone Wars episode.
Wait. I'm a minute behind you guys. We all need to pause.
Yeah. You guys, did Savage just do the thing on do it on your screen too? Are we synced up?
Of course, now we could use like Disney Plus has that like feature where you all watch it at the same time, and it could actually work.
It would, yeah.
Do you guys want to do that? We should just put on
modern
ambush.
technology.
If we run out of things to do, I say we just put on ambush and do a Clone Wars commentary.
Maybe.
Just in the middle, just to see. Let's see where we're at in about 30, 40 minutes time and see if we can feel the need to fill.
Oh my god.
We shall see.
All right, Chris, let's plug some things and we'll get into the news, quote unquote.
Wow, I don't have to rush through this for once. So
Take our time.
If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you punch that subscribe button so you get to watch all of our future shows and you get the notifications about that. And you can also subscribe to us elsewhere as well. If you're listening to us on a podcast app like Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, please subscribe to us over there. But if you're live with us on YouTube or you're watching on Facebook or Twitch live, go over to YouTube right now because we're on YouTube on the Star Wars Underworld Network channel. That's where you can send your super chats. And the more super chats you send, the longer our show will definitely be tonight. And also, the more cool things we can put together as well with your donations that we're very grateful for. But if you're not watching live, if you're watching later and you still want to support us, you can just become a channel member, be part of the TK squad over on the Star Wars Underworld Network's YouTube channel. That is the only way to subscribe with a payment to us is to do it through the YouTube channel. So head over and do that if you can't make the live shows and can't super chat. But otherwise, we just recommend super chatting because it's really fun to not only make the show better with more investment from our audience, but also to be able to interact live with you guys is really fun. So we super recommend that. We appreciate everybody who does super chat. It's really amazing time. And we have stuff going on while we're not live. We're kind of technically always live because we're always at the keyboard. We're always on Discord. Well, Dominic isn't. I'm not really, but Ben is.
Ben's there. Ben is always live.
I'm always on the. I'm always lighting up the Discord, guys. Always, never, can't stop, won't stop.
If you tag me, that is for sure. But
I'll tell you, I opened Discord for the first time today since the Maple Leafs were eliminated from the playoffs.
Oh my god. Wow. See, that is what you were so mad that they were eliminated. Said, I'm quitting Discord. Quitting Discord until they hire a new manager.
And they did.
And so you're back on Discord.
You gave up Discord for Lent this year.
Yeah. I said I'm going off Discord until they trade Mitch Marner, and lo and behold, he's now a Vegas Golden Knight.
That always works because Discord is the main sponsor of the Leafs. How does it all works?
Years ago, the helmet sponsor was TikTok, so far off.
That's funny. So it's not really that far off.
No, it's pretty close.
Physically be hurting their budget by boycotting their sponsor because of something they did or didn't do. Amazing. So yeah, check out that Discord. The link is in the description. We got game nights, we got watch parties, we got discussion all around the clock there on the SWU enunciate every letter network Discord. Check it out. And of course, follow us on social media. I don't really know how to look up our accounts on social media anymore. We've kind of it's weird. It's like initially on social media, when we all started like 15 years ago, you didn't even have URLs on social media. You had to search for everything. Everybody had these funny numbers and user codes in their URLs and everything. And page ID, account ID. And then suddenly all the social media, like, the site formerly known as Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, they all made it really easy where you just had to go to whatever the site is /the SWU and you got to our page. It was really easy. But now with Facebook doing weird stuff and getting rid of our old page and us having to make a new page, and now with Blue Sky having their bsky.app URL or whatever the heck that is, now you really can't type in at the SWU anymore. So that is our handle in some places, like X.
I mean, I think also it sounds really cool to go, yes, find us at facebook.com/the SWU. But like, no one's doing that. No one's gonna do someone wants to go find you on social media, they go to that app and they type your name in, and that's how they find you. That's how it works nowadays. But just like, okay, yeah, we're at the SWU on like all of the platforms. Just find us there. That's fine. That's how it works now. Versus like URLs. Do people even use URLs anymore?
I don't think people know what that is anymore, which is wild, because it's strange that you both have like baby boomers and Gen Z both being like, what's a URL? it's just the millennials and like this kind of the younger Gen X that like are hip to the concept of typing something into a browser.
Got hip to the concept.
That's right.
Grandpa.
I have no idea what generation that I stole that from, but the death of genre and the death of generational lingo. Let's go.
There we go.
So, and then the final thing that we want to talk about before we spend an hour dissecting every Emmy nomination from Andor is the Star Wars Underworld Network. And Dom, you were actually recently on another show on the Star Wars Underworld Network. Tell us what happened there and why people should go back and watch it.
That's true. I was on Ion Canon this past Monday talking about Trials of the Jedi, which is the final novel in the High Republic series. We had a great conversation breaking that down. Full spoilers, so if you've read the book or listened to the book, absolutely a great time to check out that episode. If you haven't read the book yet, read the book and then go listen. Although if you have to read the book, you probably have to read several other books before it, so it might be a while.
My problem is there's a bunch of books that I have to read to get to that book. Otherwise, I'm sure it would probably be enjoyable, just wouldn't make half sense because
it wouldn't make a lick of sense
in the entirety of Phase 2 and 3.
Yes, I just want to point out here, J Star Wars 360 says Ion Cannon sounds like Ion Cannon. Yes, that's the joke. That's the joke.
You got it. But
anyways, it was good stuff. It was a great episode, a worthy discussion. Check it out.
Jeff in the chat says it's so incredible that Ben, Chris, and Dom have been podcasting together for over 12 years or so. It's been a lot longer than that now.
It's a long time.
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
Like as of this year, as of a couple months ago, like 15 years of the Star Wars Underworld, and a little bit less for the podcast, but not that much less.
We started at, I think, around the beginning of September in 2011. It was when we started podcasting. So it's gonna be 14 years in like 6 weeks.
It's true. And J Star Wars 36 says you guys were Star Wars podcasting before it was cool. Hell yeah.
Darn right.
Although we are the third generation of Star Wars podcasters. There's the lost generation that I didn't find out about till way later.
Yeah.
That no one even knows about because podcasts, you couldn't even find them back in the early 2000s.
You're like downloading Winamp.
Yeah. So there's the lost generation that probably no one here has ever listened to one of those podcasts because no one knew what a podcast was or even had a computer when they were on. And then there was the kind of like, because there maybe like the golden age podcasts, like podcasts we grew up with when we were kids and teenagers, and then we kind of were like the new kids on the block where we were the voice of the next generation coming in after that.
So it's funny, not this week but the week before, I was listening to one of those like golden age Star Wars podcasts. I was listening to an interview that Dave Filoni did with a podcast back at the midway point of season 1 of the Clone Wars. And it was wild to listen to because quite literally in the middle of this interview, he describes what would become a scene from the finale of The Acolyte.
What? Whoa.
Yeah, he's like talking about the Jedi, and he's talking about the Jedi in context of the relationship with the Republic and going back and forth. And he's like, yeah, if I was a senator, I'd say this. And he's basically saying what that senator says to Vernestra in that episode. I'm like, oh, this man had a lot of influence on this show. Like he really you know, like obviously the show is Leslie Headland's vision, but like Filoni clearly, you know, in his role as chief creative officer, had some sway and you know, they probably had some interesting conversations there in the writers' room with Leslie, Dave, and the rest of the writers. Pretty interesting.
That's really incredible. Yeah, and talk about, you know, us being, you know, it being crazy that we've been now involved with Star Wars fandom for 14 to 15 years in various capacities. Dave Filoni now has been doing stuff at Lucasfilm for over 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years with Dave Filoni. That's about as long as George Lucas was involved with Star Wars before Dave Filoni came along. Like it hadn't hit the 30th year anniversary before Dave Filoni. He came in a few years before the 30th anniversary of Star Wars. So we're not too far away from saying Dave Filoni's been a thing longer than George Lucas was a thing prior to him. That's absolutely wild.
It's wild, yeah.
Yeah.
What a time.
So yeah, check out all that other stuff on the Star Wars Underworld Network. I guess you can call that the fourth or fifth generation of podcasts.
Yeah, something like that. I might be onto the 7th or 8th at this point.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it also skips over.
Because we were like 3rd generation, and then I think there was a 4th generation that like kicked up right as the Disney buyout.
Yes.
And the like new movies started up again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I feel like there's been a few more in there. Probably, you know, it's probably a COVID generation.
Yeah, COVID generation, and then this generation is very much like the Disney Plus content generation.
Yeah.
And so check out the Raeside, Raeside. Check out Ion Cannon, as we mentioned.
Speaking of the the Disney Plus era generation, yeah.
If you're watching on Twitch, which we know people are, we actually have. I think Jeff was commenting from Twitch. He was.
Interesting.
We apologize if anything wild happens on Twitch. We can't control it, Jeff. We need to make Jeff like a mod on our Twitch because of that.
Jeff, you want that job? You can have
it. Ben will give it to you.
Yeah, figure that out. Business meeting. Aside. Figure that out, because like obviously like we can ban people if you're bad on YouTube or Facebook. We can get rid of you. But if you do something bad on Twitch, we got issues. There's no button to do anything from on that. So
nothing we can do.
Yeah. So we apologize if you see anything. Thankfully, though, if someone says something wild on Twitch, it doesn't go to the other sites. We see it, but only the people on Twitch see it. So Jeff, you're the only one that's gonna see if somebody like spams us or like says something crazy on Twitch. You'll see it, but everyone else won't. But
yeah, and Jeff, if you see that happening, I need you to drive to their house in Siberia and kick the crap out of them.
Please. But if you are watching on Twitch, it's very easy to go over and make sure you follow the Tales from Beyond the Galaxy channel on Twitch, because I know they prefer, that's their like preferred spot to broadcast. I know they also broadcast on the other platforms as well, but when they promote themselves, they always, I think, they want to interact with people on Twitch because there's a lot of like gamers there on that show and such. So check that out, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, and then Tractor Beams right here. Very simple on the Star Wars Underworld Network channel. So make sure you catch that as well. And there you go. That makes up for all the time we've banked rushing through the promos every week to talk about Andor or whatever.
Yeah, okay. So let's get to the news. Before we do that, though, I will just mention that I have set up a number generator between 1 and 133, which is the number of Clone Wars episodes there are.
Nice.
Oh god.
So when we run out of things to talk about, I will generate a number and we will do a commentary of that episode.
That's so dangerous. What if we get like nomad droids or
we will comment on that episode. We will.
What number is Evil Plans? Please take that number out.
All right, let's brace yourselves, because this is happening. All right. Apparently, we're talking about the Emmy nominations. Yes, Star Wars got some big Emmy nominations. Specifically, the show everybody was talking about last year got nominated for outstanding sound editing. That's right, The Acolyte got one nomination. The episode Night for outstanding sound editing, which is the best episode of The Acolyte. So no arguments here. No, Andor. So Andor got 14 primetime Emmy nominations. These are the nominations. Outstanding drama series, outstanding production design, outstanding cinematography, outstanding fantasy/sci-fi costumes, outstanding directing for Janice Metz, outstanding picture editing, outstanding music composition, outstanding original music and lyrics. That's for the Gorman National Anthem, by the way. I hope this is like the Oscars where they sing all the songs that are nominated for Best Original Song, which is why you got the thing with Ryan Gosling doing the Barbie song a few years ago. I want the actors from Gorman to be at the Emmys singing the Gorman National Anthem. That's my hope. Outstanding guest actor for Forrest Whitaker, outstanding character voiceover performance for Alan Tudyk, outstanding sound editing, outstanding sound mixing, outstanding special visual effects, and outstanding writing for Dan Gilroy. That's right. Tony got his brother an Emmy nomination this year. 14 very, very, very well-deserved awards. Although I know some people have been focusing more on the awards it didn't get nominated for, specifically anything in the starring and recurring acting roles. People thinking Diego Luna, Genevieve O'Reilly, people like that should have gotten nominations. I can't say I disagree, but I also don't care. I'm happy for the show that it's successful. I'm glad people like it, but a golden statue doesn't dictate whether somebody gave a great performance or not. And Diego Luna's performance as Cassian Andor will live on for a very, very long time. And honestly, it will live on far longer than anybody else nominated in that category. So why do I care who got the statue? That's my feeling. I don't know. Do you feel differently, Chris?
No. I mean, we can still complain about it, and you can't say that it's like biased against sci-fi, because I think Severance got like all the nominations, and Severance is just as sci-fi as Andor. And Severance is more sci-fi than Andor in ways. Yeah. So it's like if Severance is gonna get, it got like 20 something, I think, nominations, and I think some more of the ones for actors, then Andor should as well. So I still think I'm still going to claim that there's a bias against Star Wars just in general in Emmys and Oscars, because it's seen as maybe a little bit too pop cinema or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of awards are like the more technical ones, and I think it's easier to say, well, the costumes were great, there's no argument there, versus having to acknowledge that Genevieve O'Reilly's speech as Mon Mothma is as great as anything else. It just happens to be set in a galaxy far, far away, I guess is where Emmy voters maybe, and Academy voters in general, maybe need to get off their high horse. I don't know. Ben, how do you feel? 14 Emmy nominations, but none for, well, I won't say none for acting, because Forrest Whitaker and Alan Tudyk got them, but none in the major acting categories.
Yeah, I mean, look, because I have seen the word snubbed has been thrown around a lot, and not just for individual people, like saying that Andor has been snubbed. And like, I don't disagree with the sentiment, but also I'm just like, it got 14 nominations. It didn't it's getting a lot of recognition. Now, if it wins any of these, that'll be another story. But this is, I think, probably the most Star Wars has ever gotten at the Emmys for one show. Like, it's amazing. And Andor sits at this very weird and unprecedented place at this intersection of being a show that has been embraced critically and by the fandom and by everyone, saying like no joke in there that like this is one of the best shows ever. And and that's something like, I don't disagree, guys. Like, this is great. And also being that it actually it could back it up. Like, the fandom loves it. The critics love it. General audience loves it. And it actually is very good critically. Like, you could look at this and go like, yeah, it's very good. So, and we've always, it's always been that thing of that air of, I don't know, superiority that the Academy has, the Emmys and stuff like that, the awards things, because Star Wars and awards have mostly not aligned with each other. And it's just, in general, it's just been kind of accepted of like, well, Star Wars is good. We love Star Wars, but just, it's not to that caliber. It's not to the caliber of Academy Award winning, out of a few exceptions. But
I'm sorry. Continue.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna go off on a tangent here. Do you remember when the Clone Wars won? I think it was a daytime Emmy for like best animated program. And first of all, it was amazing because Carrie Fisher presented the award, and she gets up there and she reads out the nominees and she goes, "I'm not telling you who I'm cheering for," and then she says it's Star Wars, and she opens the envelope, she goes, "Star Wars, the Clone Wars, yes!" It's incredible. And then George gets up there. I'm hoping I'm not confusing two separate instances. I'm hoping I'm not combining two into my mind, because I really want this to be the same event.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it is, because George then got up there and gives the speech, and he starts talking about how he's never really won an award. He's never won an award like this. And then he catches himself and he goes, "No, wait, actually, Red Tails," which is his movie about the Tuskegee Airmen. He produced it. He said he meant to say, Red Tails got an NAACP award. And instead he said, Red Tails got an NCAA award. Like it won the Heisman.
Yeah.
Or the Hobie Baker or something. Like, what? Wow. So I don't know. I want Tony Gilroy to get up there and to thank the NCAA for giving.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
An Oscar or something.
Yeah. Who knows? It's one every other. It's excelled in every other lane. So why not? No. What was I saying before you threw me off so rudely? No, just the general idea of like the whole thing about like people saying like, the award ceremonies, they're too stuck up to give award to Star Wars, the whole thing, that's whole things. And that obviously comes from like years and years of watching the Oscars and go, "Oh, Star Wars is going to win this year." No, it didn't. And, Star Wars is going to win the Emmys this year. No, it didn't. And it has won a few times. We have to, we can't ignore that. But I think it also comes from a place of insecurity of, like, oh, we all love this thing that's literally agreed upon by most of humanity, that it's one of the best things ever created, but we're still insecure about the elites in Hollywood recognizing that it's actually good, which is just kind of weird. But I think the justification that I've heard, and we've had strides, like not just applies to Star Wars, this applies to all different things, and we now live in an era where things are getting recognized. A lot of the shows that were nominated in the show were Last of Us, Penguin, stuff that would be considered like nerdy, geeky stuff that only nerds would like, 20 years ago. Now they're prestige TV. And we live in things where Black Panther won an Oscar. Like, comic book movies are actually in the running for these things. But I've heard the justification that kind of sat well with me, which is like, these big productions, the prize that they win is getting all the attention and getting all the money. Like, they get the popular award. Like, that's the ultimate award that any Star Wars movie, any Marvel movie, they get all this attention. And the award shows are for the stuff that is, yes, maybe lesser known, but is more art house, maybe better quality, maybe not, but it's still things. And, I think ultimately I can kind of see that and understand. I think it's a good way to look at it anyway. But it's still, it's things, especially when you have like something like Andor, where it's just like, if anything, Star Wars is going to win awards, it should be this thing, because it is actually like everyone agrees it's good. And it sucks when you have performances that are very like stellar performances, like Diego Luna, Genevieve O'Reilly, Stellan Skarsgård, all these people that pour their hearts out on screen. And, it sucks that they're not getting recognition for that. But also, they're getting recognition for that. Everyone has watched Andor and they're like, they're very good at that. And the outpouring of support of people going like, you got snubbed, is maybe enough of an award unto itself, that people are like, people are watching and enjoying Andor. That is an award all to itself.
Agreed. You know who agrees with you, Ben? Tony Gilroy. Tony Gilroy. He was interviewed this week and spoke about the nominations. He spoke to Deadline about this. He said, "quote There are a lot of performances that I wish were recognized. Diego Luna and Genevieve O'Reilly. These aren't great moment-to-moment performances. These are epic long-term character studies, and they've done over 24 episodes. I think the ultimate victory is that these performances will be celebrated and discussed for years to come. I feel confident about that," which is what I also said. Me and Tony Gilroy on the same wavelength. Andor also got some nominations for the Television Critics Association Awards, the TCA Awards, including Program of the Year, Outstanding Achievement in Drama, and Individual Achievement in Drama for Diego Luna. So congratulations there. Let's talk about this. This is interesting. This was a story in Rolling Stone. Ryan Johnson, remember him? He's been out promoting his show Poker Face. Season 2, I think, just wrapped up. He's also got another Knives Out movie coming out later this year. And so he's been doing a lot of press lately. And of course, everybody sort of wants to talk about Star Wars. And most interviews are like, it's like, if there's 10 questions, 9 of them are about Poker Face or Knives Out or all that stuff. And then there's like one Star Wars question at the end. Rolling Stone just sort of was like, we're just going to do a Star Wars interview in the middle of these other interviews, because there's a whole bunch of things that he talks about, including the like back and forth between him and J.J. Abrams, how his script evolved based on what he was seeing in episode 7. And he did talk about what he thinks of episode 9. So a couple of interesting quotes here, starting with, again, about the sort of level of communication that he had with JJ. He said, quote, "We communicated, we met, and I spent days with him and was able to get into his head and all the choices that he made. That having been said, I communicated and I went and made the movie." So sort of like he talked to JJ and then he went and did the movie. And he was in the middle of The Force Awakens. And ultimately, I feel like the choices in it, none of them were born out of the intent to undo anything. They were all born out of the opposite intent, which is, how do I take the story that JJ wrote that I really loved and these characters that he created and I really loved and take them to the next step? Kathy said, "We're going to do the Empire Strikes Back of the series." I took that assignment very seriously, maybe more seriously than some would have liked. I guess that didn't mean making something that had nods to Empire. That meant trying to genuinely do what Empire did. So sort of saying like, wasn't trying to undo anything, didn't look at anything in Force Awakens and say, I don't like that, so let's try and reverse that. Instead, it was like, how do we take what was on screen in Force Awakens and continue it in an interesting, exciting, and unexpected way? He gives an example of this with the killing off Snoke and elevating Kylo Ren's character in episode 7. He says, "That was in reading JJ's script and watching the dailies and seeing the power of Adam Driver's character. The interrogation scene in the first movie between Rey and Kylo was so incredibly powerful. Seeing this complicated villain that's been created, I was just so compelled by that. This is all a matter of perspective and phrasing, but to me, I didn't easily dispense with Snoke. I took great pains to make him to make use of him in the most dramatically impactful way that I could, which was then to take Kylo's character to the next level and set him up as well as I possibly could. I guess it all comes down to your point of view. I thought this is such a compelling and complicated villain. This is who it makes sense going forward to build around."
And
ahead,
it's very no, you're fine. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna say, like, it's very important, and it's very, like, because I forget this stuff. I think we just collectively forget, like, how different things worked out, and like so much of the discourse around the sequel trilogy, especially post Rise of Skywalker, which is like how reactionary the movies were, or how much they weren't, and how they were designed to either please certain fans or blah blah blah. You have to remember, like, Force Awakens and Last Jedi were both made in a bubble. Like, they were made completely behind the scenes. Like, they went off and they made Force Awakens, and then Ryan came in and read the script and wrote his movie, and they did it. And it was all done kind of behind closed doors before any of the fans really saw what they were doing or had any time to react. So it is interesting to kind of hear his side of the story and be like, okay, this is what was actually going on, and we don't get that. There's no, it would have been cool maybe in the behind the scenes documentaries, like, okay, a conversation between J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson. I don't even know if they even have any pictures together. Like, they're very like separate people in the grand scheme of things. And it's very interesting. Like, they worked pretty closely. They, handed off movies to each other. It would seem that they would have worked together, and it seemed like they did. Maybe not as much as maybe they should have, but they did.
Yeah, it's I was always expecting, like, there's a picture from the set of Return of the Jedi of George Lucas, Irvin Kershner, and Richard Marquand. I was always expecting there to be that picture from the set of Episode 9 of J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, and Colin Trevorrow. And then Trevorrow got ousted, and so that didn't happen. And then it was just J.J. and Ryan, and it never really, I don't know. I think by the time they were making Episode 9, Ryan was fully doing Knives Out stuff. So like I think probably if they really, 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 really wanted to do it, they could have made it happen. But there was like enough going on that it wasn't necessarily convenient for everybody to do it. But yeah, it's interesting that they. I've always said I think Last Jedi rolls really well out of Force Awakens. Like, if you do watch those two movies back to back, they really play well off each other. And Rise of Skywalker is interesting because in some ways it builds off Last Jedi, in some ways it doesn't. In some ways it sort of like almost circles back to Force Awakens in a way that you wouldn't expect the third movie in a trilogy to. Maybe isn't the best for the trilogy, but like it feels a little bit on its own and on an island, because like you were saying, Ben, those first two movies were made kind of in a bubble. They were made almost at the same time in a way. Like, obviously they weren't shot at the same time, but Ryan was shooting it before he knew what anybody thought of The Force Awakens. He was just going off of his own vibes on it. And when Trevorrow was writing, they were doing, he was doing the same thing. Like, he was building it based off of what he was seeing and reading from the other two. And because like I think the script that's out there for Duel of the Fates, which is Trevorrow's Episode 9, I think it's dated something like December 2016. Like, it goes around Rogue One time. So yeah, The Force Awakens had been out. The reaction was known to that movie, but the reaction was not known to Last Jedi yet at that point. He was still basing it off of scripts and probably dailies, the same way that Ryan was basing what he was doing off of scripts and dailies for Episode 7. And that's how you get, then that was sort of how they were meaning to build up to it. And then when they decided to go in a different direction from Trevorrow, then you bring Abrams back in. And because he's starting the project late, he can't help but be influenced by ideas he already had about where the story would go. He's not building naturally out of Episode 8 the way Trevorrow was. He's going back to his original ideas that maybe don't jive necessarily with the direction that Rian Johnson took it. And, he has to work on a slightly condensed timeline, and the writing process extends further into the period of time after Episode 7 is out. So you can see a lot of the reaction. Remember, Episode 9 doesn't start shooting till much later in the year than either of the other sequel movies did. Like, it was sort of like summertime, where the other one started shooting in the late winter, early spring.
What I want to know is, how did the conversation go down when they, who is probably like Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger and a few other people, decided we're going to do a movie every other year in this saga? Because obviously, we all know that up until that point, every Star Wars movie had at least 3 years of production time between them. And then you, of course, had that big gap between the prequels and the original trilogy. And that's about naturally how long, it would take to kind of get the reaction from something and then start building off of that. Like, in addition to, you talk about like Kershner and Marquand, like, in addition to them actually being on set together at points, they had a time to fully absorb the movie that came before them. And then, of course, George Lucas absorbed the reaction from his own movies as he was doing the prequels. I'm sure Jar Jar being less of an important character in Episode 2 and 3 had a lot to do with how he was received in Episode 1. Considering how important he was in 1, I think he probably would have been in those movies more, if not, and many other things like that. So I really wonder what their motivation was for, yeah, Star Wars usually is a movie every 3 years, but not only do we want to put out a movie every year, but we want the sequential saga films to be every other year. Like, I wonder how that conversation went and why they really arrived at that. And I'm sure at one point somebody probably chimed in. Maybe it was Bob, maybe it was Kathy, maybe it was some other dude, Joe, I don't know, and said, well, if we have a different director for each of the movies 7, 8, and 9, they can kind of work simultaneously, like you're saying, Dominic. They can work off of the scripts and the dailies from the previous movie, and talk with the other directors, have a vibe for where it's going. But they can work simultaneously, and we could get all of these movies out in, I guess it would be a 4-year span. They would all come out, because the 2 years between each of them. It's 4 years between 2015 and 2019 when the first and last ones came out. And they all agreed, yeah, that's brilliant. That's what we do. We have a different director for every one, and then they all work simultaneously at the same time. And in 4 years, we'll have 3 movies out, and we'll make $3 billion. Boom. Yeah. We paid $4 billion for this thing. You throw in the movies in between, Rogue One and Solo, and we will make $5 billion in 5 years and 4 years, and we'll make $1 billion return on investment. Math. Dude, like that, maybe that's how it went. Like in theory, it makes sense when you're looking at numbers, but then when you're doing an autopsy of it, it's like, I don't know if that was the best idea, yo.
Yeah. Well, there's we've had this conversation before, but like there's 3 ways to do a trilogy. 1 is what they did. 2 is what they intended to do, which was different director, different writer each time. And 3 is to have someone oversee the whole thing, which is what it seems like they're doing now with the Simon Kinberg trilogy. And really, they should have gone with either having someone oversee it, or like committing to this crazy idea of doing 3 directors and 3 writers, and letting them play out and seeing where it took them. But I do understand the decision to bring JJ back. Things were a little bit, the seas were a little choppy at that point. We were starting to get a sense that not everything was awesome behind the scenes with the production of these movies. Rogue One had the massive reshoots. Solo had its director thing happen. And I think they looked at that situation and said, the Josh Trank thing had happened as well. There's another one. Yep. And I think they had reached the decision of, we need a steady hand to make episode 9. So it needs to be somebody we've hired before. It needs to be someone we know we can work with. And it's either Rian Johnson or JJ Abrams. And Ryan, in this interview, he dances around whether he was ever asked to do episode 9. He kind of says it wasn't something he ever really wanted to do. And so if he's not interested in that, if he's sort of saying, I'd rather hand it off, possibly because it would be a difficult thing, just sort of physically and being tired and stuff, to go right from doing episode 8 to doing episode 9 without that extra year in between. They had to go to JJ, and so you get Abrams in there, and he is a steady hand at the ship, at least when it comes to the production and running and having a smooth sailing production. So there it is. As for what Ryan thinks of episode 9, he is very diplomatic, as you would expect. Much in the same way that JJ always praises his movie, he praises JJ's movie. He says of Rise of Skywalker, when I saw the movie, I had a great time watching it. Again, this is all about point of view. I never really approached this as like a territory I'm carving out for my thing. In my perspective, JJ did the same thing with the third that I did with the second, which is not digging it up and undoing, just telling the story the way that was most compelling going forward. That means not just validating what came before, but recontextualizing it and evolving it and changing the story. And changing as the story moves forward. I didn't feel resentful in some way, but you're talking about a movie made by my friends, with my friends in it. I sit down to watch a movie, and it's a Star Wars movie. It's all stuff I love. I'm not the one to come out for a hard-hitting critique. You can go to YouTube for that. Welcome. Yeah. I appreciate him being diplomatic. I think there's no, what's the point in him and JJ getting into a
because
public feud?
He more so than practically anyone knows how, if he is completely honest and goes like, well, I didn't like this, and this, which is very hard as a creator to do that, because it feels bad to do that to yourself. Like, and knowing how people will take that and use it to against him, against other people, seeing what happened to Mark Hamill and how Mark Hamill had a moment of truthfulness in talking about his experience on The Last Jedi, and then people are still talking about it online, and it's just like, I understand, and and I would be so fascinated, so incredibly fascinated to hear what Rian Johnson, his frank, honest, open thoughts on The Rise of Skywalker. I would love it.
You know what would be a great Star Wars Celebration panel? So we get J.J. Abrams, we get Rian Johnson, and we give them both truth serum. And we let them just talk openly and honestly about each other's movies.
When do those
NDAs
run out, guys? Come on.
And let's have it be moderated by Mark Hamill.
Oh, that'd be great.
Hey,
at
at
least
the internet will not need to complain about any new Star Wars projects because they'll have like 2 years worth of material from that one.
Yeah. So many YouTube videos with thumbnails of people with laser eyes just being angry.
Yeah.
All right. And one more thing from Rian Johnson. What about his trilogy? Trilogy? I announced that in 2017, and we've heard like absolutely nothing about it since then. Here's what Rian said when asked what happened to it. He said, nothing really happened with it. We had a great time working together, and they said, let's keep doing it. I said, great. I would kick around ideas with Kathy. The short version is Knives Out happened. I went off and made Knives Out and was off to the races busy making murder mysteries. It's the sort of thing, if down the line there's an opportunity to do it or do something else in Star Wars, I would be thrilled. But right now, I'm just doing my own stuff and pretty happy. He also adds, there was never any outline or treatment or anything.
Dang.
Yeah. Honestly, it sounds like I think they probably went to him when the Trevorrow situation was blowing up and said, we really enjoyed making this movie with you. Do you want to do episode 9? He probably said, no, I want to do something else next, but I want to keep making Star Wars movies. I also really enjoyed working with you. So they said, okay, not episode 9. Let's do our own trilogy. Like, let's figure it out down the road. You go make your one-off murderous mystery with Daniel Craig, and then we'll do our thing. We'll circle back after that and we'll do our thing. And then, Disney changed their direction. They wanted to do more streaming things. COVID happened. He got into making the murder mysteries. The reaction to the movie wasn't what they were expecting, and suddenly everybody's moving in different directions. And I have really honestly been a big believer that this would eventually happen, but I was thinking about it this past week, and I think actually it's not going to happen because part of the appeal was working with the same crew and the same team. And Kathleen Kennedy is planning her exit strategy. She's not going to be around for very much longer as head of Lucasfilm, maybe a couple of years max. And unless sort of like on her way out the door, her last thing is to produce another Rian Johnson Star Wars movie. That might be the death nail in it. Not because whoever the incoming people don't like Ryan or aren't interested in it and in working with him again, but just because like the appeal for both sides was, let's get the band back together. And don't be surprised if 5-10 years from now suddenly Rian Johnson is writing and directing a movie for the Kennedy Marshall Company or the Marshall Kennedy Company. It wouldn't surprise me. The same way that like Kerry Hart and Gareth Edwards made the Creator. You like working with the people you like working with, and even when you move on from the company, you find ways back together. And so
the only way I see it really happening right now is perhaps obviously like Daisy Ridley is going to be in something soon. I think I'm confident something's going to happen there, whether it's the Charmin Obey-Chudley movie or something else. Seems the rumor mill is alight with like, okay, something's happening and they've seen the value in the character of Rey Skywalker and they want to do more with that, and that's fine. I think maybe 5, 10, 15 years down the road, I could see Ryan coming back, bringing together, say, a spiritual sequel to the sequels. in a way. Like you maybe Oscar needs a new house. Maybe John's ready to come back. Maybe, and Daisy's
Rose
on her
Tico, a
18th
Star Wars story.
Yeah, and like Daisy's just like, oh yeah, I'll just do another one because I've already done 18 of these already. And then just do that, and then maybe you get Kathleen to come back and produce or something like that. No matter what her relationship status with Star Wars is, like I think that's on things, because I think we saw it with the prequels. We saw this whole like prequel renaissance and Hayden Ewan coming back and having that team kind of reforming. I think if you're going to do something with the sequels for fans of the sequels in the future, Ryan is your guy. Ryan is the guy that to helm that to kind of things. I think that would be very interesting. So yeah, I hope. It sucks that like it's clear. I think it's clear that Lucasfilm saw in Ryan what was going to happen. They're like, this guy's gonna be a hot commodity, so let's nail him down with a trilogy. Like, let's do this now before somebody else gets their hands on him. And then the movie happened. They're like, oh, okay. And they just kind of like pushed him away and let Knives Out and Poker Face take him. And what happened.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Moving from one Star Wars director to another, George Lucas. Heard of him? He's going to be at San Diego Comic-Con this year. And my reaction was to immediately be very angry once again with Donald Trump. Because I have been going to Comic-Con every year since 2015. And this is the first year I'm not going, largely because of the current political climate in the US and rocky relationships with Canada and just not wanting to mess around with
also
that right now.
It's just not safe for you down here. Let's just be honest. It's just not safe.
And so I was like, I'm going to make my peace with not going to Comic-Con. It's going to suck to not be there. I'm going to miss the Hasbro panel and the publishing panel, and miss seeing everybody in the Lucasfilm Pavilion and doing all the stuff and getting the comically large Rice Krispie Square and all that stuff. I was really sad. I was going to miss all of that. But I was like, I can make my peace with it. And then I see George Lucas is going to headline a panel in Hall H. And I'm like, how much are flights? How much are flights? I could sleep on the street in San Diego. It's fine.
Apparently, this is his first time going to San Diego Comic-Con, which is true.
Crazy. He's never been.
Because I know. I guess back in the day when Charlie Lippincott and all those guys were in charge, they brought some of the cast members to San Diego Comic-Con. Like that was a big deal back in the day. But I guess George didn't show up.
The very first Star Wars San Diego Comic-Con panel was actually it was the guys who were doing the comics adaptation. That's who you were getting. That's who you're getting. But Charlie Lippincott was there. I think Mark Hamill was there. And then they would go around to other conventions as well, and they would do a little presentation. And Hamill would be there. Gary Kurtz might be there. But yeah, it was never George. George was not the guy doing it. And then during the
nerdiest, shyest guy imaginable didn't want to go to Comic-Con.
Well, I mean, maybe he wanted to go, but I imagine George would be at Comic-Con going through Artist Alley and looking through the small press pavilion. He's not lining up for a photo op. He's finding some obscure comic books from 1932 or something.
Yeah.
But
is there a Flash Gordon panel somewhere?
Yeah. And then during the prequel era, Steve Sansweet handled all of the Comic-Con related stuff, and then for the sequels, they only did the one with JJ, and then and that's been it. Filoni has gone a couple of times for Clone Wars stuff and Rebel stuff, but Star Wars hasn't done a ton at Comic-Con lately. The last big thing was the Clone Wars revival panel in 2018. But George is going to be there to promote his museum. The panel is called Sneak Peek at the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. It will be July 27th. That's the Sunday at 11 a.m. inside Hall H, naturally the biggest hall in the convention. George will be on the panel. He'll be joined by Guillermo del Toro, another director, Doug Chiang, obviously senior VP of Lucasfilm and production designer on the prequels. And it will be moderated by Queen Latifah, which is random but awesome. Random but awesome. So love
Cool.
that. I'm sure this will be a great time. For anybody that's going to Comic-Con, I feel like this is going to be like a can't miss thing. Anytime you can hear George speak, it's always fantastic. Like, he has great things to say about Star Wars and other things, and he's never like on script. You know, he doesn't like stick to the talking points. He just talks about whatever because he's George Lucas. So he sometimes says things that he probably shouldn't. An example of this going way, way back, Star Wars Celebration 5, 2010. George is on stage being interviewed by Jon Stewart, and they're showing some preview clips from the Clone Wars Season 3. And George shows the very first clip of Savage Opress. He goes, yeah, this guy is Darth Maul's brother. It's really exciting. And then later in the day, at a Clone Wars preview panel, Dave Filoni goes to show the same clip, and he goes, yeah, George said something this morning about this clip. It was really interesting what he said, and I'm not going to repeat it because we weren't supposed to say that. Yeah. Also, we were there in 2015 at T23 when George got his Disney Legends award, and he gets up on stage to accept the award, and he goes, I don't know why you gave me this. I never worked for you. And Jar Jar Binks, I based him on Goofy. All right, bye.
or by far my favorite George unhinged moment or unscripted moment, whatever you want to call it, is the opening of Galaxy's Edge. Is him up on stage going like, yes, it could have been really bad, but it wasn't, and it's actually great. I'm just like, wow, George, wow, that's high praise.
There's also a great moment. I think it's in The Force Awakens. Yeah, it's The Force Awakens red carpet live stream. And George is at that live stream, and he looks miserable for most of it. But he's being interviewed by the StarWars.com live thing. And he's talking about it. And his interview ends, and Frank Marshall is standing behind him. And Frank Marshall says to him something like, yeah, but it's not going to make as much money as Jurassic World, right? Which is a movie that Frank Marshall produced. And George looks at him and goes, they're going to squash you like a bug. Damn, George. I love how this episode's just become George Lucas story time. Just doing stories about George Lucas.
I'm hoping that when he opens the museum up next year, he will be around a lot. Like, imagine going to the museum.
Yes.
It's the museum owner. He's just hanging out over there. Let's go talk to him about this piece of art.
I see. I thought you were just talking about him doing like a press tour. That would be even better.
No, I want
him just hanging out in the museum.
I want to believe. I want to believe that they're either A, going to be an attic space or a basement space that's just for George to do his thing, and then there'll be random sightings. You'll just go to the food court and he'll be there. He'll be eating noodles or something.
Last summer, I was in San Francisco, and in San Francisco, where I was staying was very close to where the American Zoetrope building is, which is Francis Ford Coppola's production company. And it's this like tall building, and on the ground floor there's this like really swanky and expensive Italian restaurant and like a cafe with a patio and stuff. And I was walking by it one day, and I'm walking by the patio, and I'm looking at this like little old Italian American man sitting at the table by himself, like drinking an espresso. And I'm looking at him going, I'm 95% sure that's Francis Ford Coppola, just sitting in the lobby of his little restaurant having a cafe. And I'm like, I'm imagining George doing the same thing now at this museum. Just him just like looking at a painting, and you're looking at it too, and you're not trying not to like make eye contact with the person next to you, and then you realize, hey, that guy's wearing plaid. Hey, that guy's got a gray beard. Hey, that's George Lucas. And then you try and engage him in conversation, he'll just walk away. That'd be great. It's gonna be so much fun.
I can't imagine opening your own museum and not like hanging out there. Like, it doesn't make sense. He's got to hang out there.
Yeah. It'd be so cool.
Turns into a Robot Chicken sketch.
You're George Lucas!
All right. Okay, that's the news. We've done the news.
We did it.
Do we want to do a Clone Wars commentary?
Wait, okay, this brings up a question. If you do the shared thing, does everybody have to have an account?
I think so.
because my account might be on Carbonite till the next Star Wars thing.
I forgot that's also my answer.
You bastards.
I completely forgot. You want to watch something on Max? I got that.
Yeah, you know what? All right, well, screw it. We're doing Pedro Pascal hour, so we're gonna watch friggin' Last of Us. All right, we'll do the Joel Davis question hour, I suppose, instead, aka Ask the SWU. Unless you guys have access to the episodes another way, we could watch them now.
I mean, yes, but then is it going to be lined up, and then we have all the old problems that we had before.
And I still be so nostalgic.
Yeah, I still own quite a few. Funny, I never bought any of them on disc. No season of Clone Wars up on disc, but I own them digitally because that's how I watched them back in the day.
If you got them on iTunes, is that?
Yeah, when it used to be called. Now it's called Apple something.
Yeah,
it's all Apple now. Actually, I don't even know. I don't even know how to find them now. It's kind of crazy.
Wouldn't it stand to reason that there might be some Clone Wars episodes just randomly on like the Star Wars YouTube or like somewhere?
There are a bunch. You know what? There are a bunch of Rebels episodes there.
Yeah.
You could watch watch the season 1 of Rebels episode. Maybe we'll have to plan this out better.
We need to plan ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ben, you've been trying to plan a 20th anniversary, 10th anniversary, this 15th anniversary, anniversary of the Star Wars Underworld.
You're gonna have to cross out the 5 and put a 6 there instead.
For like 5 weeks now.
We've got a few months. Okay, we've got a few months.
I haven't gotten there yet.
The show notes are right there. Hannah just has to be here. We'll do it.
All right. One of these days, I promise you, one of these days we will do a commentary of something in the middle of an episode because I think that would be really funny. But for now,
honestly, I think we'll have plenty of opportunity. I don't think this is going to be the last slow news week, even of this year.
Yeah, we'll figure out a way. All right. Let's do Ask the SWU. This is the part of the show where we answer your questions. You send them in on Discord, or it's a super chat, or is it just a regular chat in the live YouTube thingamajig, or other streaming things? Because we're, as we discussed earlier, streaming on various other platforms as well. But let's see. Let's go with. I think this is an interesting question from Joel from the Discord. This is a fairly recent question that he sent in. He says, "Hey, Underworld, I have an interesting question this week. Do you think we as fans need to do a better job of rewatching the newer Star Wars projects as we did when we were younger with the older Star Wars projects? Let's face it, we older Star Wars fans." Joel, who are you calling old? Next Generation Strikes Back here. Come on.
Back in my day.
We older fans probably wore out our DVDs or VHSs of the original and prequel trilogies, rewatching them over and over and over again until they were burned into our brains. But can we say the same thing about the newer movies and shows? The shows in particular, I always feel guilty about. Even something like Andor and Ahsoka, which I do love. I've only seen them at bare minimum twice fully. Personally, I love the streaming shows. I feel the streaming shows are very hard to rewatch because for the most part, you have to commit to watching all of it, not just a random episode, but I digress. Star Wars is Star Wars on the rewatch, as a wise friend once told me. And I feel like our opinions can truly form if we rewatch them a gazillion times, having those films and shows ingrained into our memories like a true fan should, LOL. Anyways, my point is, do you think we need to do a better job of trying to rewatch the newer stuff instead of just automatically moving on to the next thing? Love the podcast. As always, Joel Davis.
Okay, I definitely have something to say about this. Okay. So here's the thing. When we were kids, because Joel and us two are all roughly around the same age, give or take 3 or 4 years, we only had a finite amount of pieces of media that we had access to at any given time. Like when I was 12, I probably only had the option to watch less than 100 movies and TV shows any given day. The rest I would have to go and rent, which means asking my parents to rent it, not me, or wait for something to come on TV at some point. So, of course, when you only have access to 100 things and you've seen almost all of them before, You're gonna watch your favorite things again and again and again and again if you want to spend a certain amount of your time each day consuming media, which most of us did. Now you have an access to almost literally an infinite amount of multimedia content. A human being could not even begin to watch every film made, let alone every TV show, let alone every piece of YouTube content and TikTok and meme and every other media. And that's why, so many of us don't even get to the books and the comics and everything else in the video games, playing them 40 hours through, all this stuff. So it's like there's so many things that I would absolutely love to watch. Like White Lotus, for example. Everybody says White Lotus is amazing. It won a lot of it won a lot of award. It got nominated for a lot of awards. I think maybe even more than Andor.
A lot, yeah. It got all the acting nominations.
Got all the acting ones for sure. Not only am I struggling to find the time to watch White Lotus, but at this point in my life, I don't think I'm ever going to watch it. I don't think I'm ever going to have the time to watch the third or fourth best show that came out, because my shows this year were Severance, The Last of Us, and Andor. Those are the 3 shows that I watched, and I'm certainly going to be watching the finale of Stranger Things as well. So, like, with I only have time for so much, and between all the movies and everything else, and again, with so much time also being dedicated to going back and watching things that, I didn't see, that I now have access to from the 80s and the 90s, and then again all the YouTube and the TikTok and all the other things that monopolize our time that we want to see, a little bit of podcasts, everything. So in a world where my life would probably be greatly enriched by watching White Lotus, and I don't even think I'm ever gonna see it because there's just such a saturation of media, of course I'm not gonna watch Andor 3-4 times. It's just not gonna happen. Like, I probably at some point I will go back and watch it again. I love it. It's one of the best things ever made. But, I need time to, go and watch Jurassic World Rebirth because I haven't seen that and I want to see that. And I'd rather do that than watch Andor again. And so I don't think it makes us any different or letting our kids' selves down or letting the franchise or the fandom down. I don't think it does. We live in a completely different environment now than we lived in then. I don't think it's deciding to only watch, as Joel said, Andor twice and Ahsoka twice. I don't think that is weighted the same as deciding to go and watch Phantom Menace twice when we had that VHS that we had on, a few times a week until it died as a kid. I don't think it's not comparable in my mind.
Yeah. And also, like, this is the other thing that we've been talking about, like, there's so much more. Even if we delete all of the other things that are going on, there's so much more Star Wars coming out, right? Like, there was one movie every 3 years over a period of a little more than half a decade in the 90s, or in the late 90s, early 2000s. Same thing in late 70s, early 80s. And then there was nothing else. So if you wanted to watch Star Wars from 1983 to 1999, your options were Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Fast forward to 2006, you can add in Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. But that is it. So if you wanted to watch Star Wars, that was all there was. Now there are 133 episodes of the Clone Wars. There's around 100 episodes of Rebels. There's 50 some odd episodes of Bad Batch, another 40 episodes of Resistance, 3 seasons of Mando, which comes to around 24 episodes. Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the sequels, Rogue One, Solo, all of that stuff. Visions, Visions, Tales of the Jedi, Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy, all of this stuff. So just the energy that you want to direct at Star Wars, forget the rest of your media diet. The only energy that you have to direct at Star Wars is pulled in every different direction now. So you think, oh yeah, I want to rewatch Ahsoka. But you know what? Forget, Lego Star Wars is coming out next week, so we don't have to. There's no time. There's no time. I got my Star Wars. Time I can commit to Star Wars is spent on this, and so that I think more than anything creates a situation where you just don't have the need to rewatch these things. And I do think like there is something sad to that, because you don't get these things don't get ingrained with you the way that they used to. But we also have other ways of reliving these shows now than we did before, right? Like what we're doing now. After every episode of Andor, or every 3 episodes of Andor, however you look at it, we would come on here and discuss them for 90 plus minutes. After every episode of Ahsoka, we do the same thing. Obi-Wan, Bad Batch, all of that stuff. So like we relive them in other ways. Even, you say, we want to spend part of your media time is spent, scrolling TikToks and whatever. A good number of the TikToks that come up in my feed are like really fun fan edits of Star Wars things, where it's like, they take the Nemec speech and they put a bunch of stuff from the original trilogy and Rebels and all sorts of stuff with it. It's awesome. Things like that. Like, it comes through in different ways. So even though, we're not rewatching over and over and over again, we are re-experiencing them in different ways. It's different. It is not the same, but it still comes through. Like I still feel like, okay, I don't know Ahsoka as well as I knew the Phantom Menace, but I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on the show from watching it the first time, watching it the second time, and all the discussions that we had about it on this show, and the stuff that I've seen about it since.
Yeah, like I regularly when I have free time, which is not a whole lot, like every single week, but I do have some downtime, and I will get mad at myself and be in this sense of like confusion and indecision, because I'm like, I have this 2 or 3 hours that I could be doing something. What am I going to watch? I have to watch something. There's a new there's tons of things. Like there's Ironheart just came out. I want to watch that. I haven't seen it yet. I don't even have Disney Plus right now, but I want to watch that. There's other things I want to watch. There's tons of shows that are constantly vying for your attention, and I'm constantly like, I'm missing out on so much. Just things, shows come and go. I'm like, oh, I would love to see that. I never get to see it. And then on top of that, I'm like, oh, here's that Star Wars thing recently. Like, I want to do an Andor season 2 rewatch. That is like literally on my checklist of things I want to do sometime later this year. But I haven't done it yet, and I don't sure when I'm going to have time. I remember a time in my very young life, many, many years ago, when all I would watch and rewatch was the original trilogy. Empire, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi. Just constantly just watch them over and over and over again, because I was obsessed with Star Wars, and that's all I had. I had the VHS and I had DVD. That was it. I don't know when in that time period the prequels came around. I know the prequels were releasing or had been released. I'd seen them in theaters, but I think there was a time I didn't even have the DVDs for those things, so I couldn't watch them. So it was just the original trilogy. And then I got 6 movies, and I'm still just rewatching those over and over again because there was nothing else. It was the Clone Wars that really broke me of that, oh, the Clone Wars is this new thing. There's new Star Wars coming out every single week. Now I have something new to watch. So I stopped rewatching the movies. It's something that I want to get back to too. I want to get back and rewatch the movies. I want to rewatch the sequel trilogy. I want to watch, I haven't watched Rogue One enough, or Solo, and all these things that are still new, and still I feel I haven't given them the time and attention that they deserve. And that's not talking about all the shows, all the stuff, every little thing that I feel like there's every time I watch non-Star Wars things, and I'm like, oh God, I didn't notice that thing before because I haven't watched that in a few years. Every time I watch something, I get something new out of it. Rewatching to me is so important, such a good part of something, especially something that you love, that it is an important part of the process, and it sucks that there is just too much content.
Yeah. And another part of this, I think, is like, I can, and I'll speak to my own experience here. Like, part of the where I would do like my rewatches and stuff is like, the show would air, It would be we'll take Clone Wars for example. It would be on Cartoon Network or Teletoon here in Canada, and you'd watch it that week, and maybe you'd watch it again through some other means, at a time that was convenient to you. And then a couple months later, the DVD would come out and watch it the whole season again on DVD. And like for me, that was a big part. Like the rewatch a few months later was part of that. There's no impetus for that anymore because the DVDs or Blu-rays or whatever, like they don't come for till 2 years after the show is out. I think that's the Disney policy, is that if something is exclusive to Disney Plus, it doesn't get a physical media release for something like a year and a half or 2 years. Maybe it's just 1 year, I don't know, but it doesn't have that, and the drive to get the DVD isn't as much there anymore, because having it on streaming is basically the same as having it on Blu-ray, because it's just there to watch it whenever you want. And I think it's a little bit more convenient because I don't have to get off my fat butt to put the new disc in the screen in the player. Like that it's that simple. And so there's parts of it like that. And we're also comparing, you're comparing being an adult to being a child. Had less responsibilities back then. It was easier to just go, I'm just going to watch Phantom Menace over and over again tonight. Even if I wanted to just be like, you know what, tomorrow I just want to watch Phantom Menace 3 times. I don't think I could. I don't think I have the time for that. I got other things to do. I got things that, I'd rather not do, but I have to. And you're also comparing, and the other part of being a kid versus being an adult is, I think it's good for Star Wars fans and fans of anything. If you have your franchise that you're a big fan of, I think it's actually better for you to watch things that aren't part of that franchise. Love your franchise and watch and rewatch those things. But I think it's also important to watch things from outside of that, because it gives you a perspective on what you're watching that you might not be thinking about. And sometimes that makes you go, you know what, they need to up the quality a little bit here of the stuff that I really love. Because, I love this because it's got X-Wings and TIE fighters in it. But if it didn't have those, I don't know if I'd like this. Other times it makes you appreciate it even more, because you're like, wow, look at this thing that is a genuinely great piece of art. And it's making me feel the same things that Star Wars made me feel. And let's think about why that is. And let's see how this all works together. I'm not saying we have to turn everything into English class, but you sort of do that subconsciously. And you think you'll be watching a great scene in a great movie, or reading a great scene in classic book or something. And you're like, wow, yeah, this is kind of like that moment in Empire Strikes Back where Yoda says to Luke, do not. And all of a sudden you realize, oh yeah, no, it is that great. So, in the time that you do have, again, for your media diet, you might think, yeah, I could rewatch Ahsoka for the 3rd time, or I could watch something else that I haven't seen before. And maybe that'll change how I see Ahsoka or Mandalorian or anything else without even having to press play on an episode of that. I can see something new and different and appreciate different talent and different creativity, while also still celebrating the thing that I already love, So
and then you start to have an existential crisis when you realize they're releasing this stuff faster than I can watch it. I better start watching this stuff, because I literally will not have a chance to watch all this stuff before I die. This is too much. At this rate, I will not see Severance before I'm dead. So how does this work?
It's funny, Chris. You were talking about you've made peace with the fact that you're never going to watch White Lotus. I refuse to make peace with that sort of thing. I hate to admit this, but I've never seen The Sopranos. But I borrowed my mom's Blu-ray set of the complete series. I borrowed it from her, I'm going to say 2 years ago. How many episodes of it do you think I have watched? The big fat 0. And every now and again, my mom will ask me at a family function, have you started The Sopranos yet? And I will say no. At which point, my brother will give me so much crap for not having watched the show yet. He's like, how do you love movies and shows so much? You've never seen one of the greats. I'm like, that's fair. That's true. That's very true. And so I think that's just the thing. There's so much, and there's only so much time in the day. And you think, am I going to start The Sopranos today, or am I going to watch the other thing that's new and hyped up or whatever? Or am I going to read, or am I going to go outside, or you know, they're a hockey game or a baseball game or a football game or like whatever else we do with our leisure time. Am I going to go see friends? Maybe I'm going to go outside. I'm going to go touch grass and talk to people. You know, like you know, whatever we do with our,
but yes.
whatever we do with our leisure time, like you know, it's we only have so much, and you have to pick and choose. And sometimes you wind up saying, I'm going to do the new thing, or I'm going to do the other thing, or I'm going to do the unconventional thing,
or I
instead
end up
of
freaking watching a video essay on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's all like those really good ones of those too. Like none of this is like a judgment on the quality of the entertainment. It's all just like, but it's just there's so much.
Well, and the thing though that is the upside to this is because there's a lot of downsides. Like there's that anxiety of like, oh, I'm never gonna have time to watch everything that I would like to watch, and you know that anxiety of like you even feel like I would feel bad watching the same thing twice, because then I'm like, now I'm missing something. Now there's something I'm not going to ever see because I'm watching this thing twice, and then that's weird because you still want to watch it twice, but then you can't. It's all these negatives, but you got to look at the positives too. I mean, the positive for me over the last several years, maybe even going back further through the pandemic and before, is because there's so many options, I only choose the best of the best. Like in order for me to watch now a movie or a TV show, like I gotta hear that it's critically acclaimed. It's gotta have like some actor or director in it that I already like, and I gotta have like 3 friends like recommended it, say you absolutely have to watch this, and in different times, so it's not like it hits me again and again. Like, I have to, so many things push me into watching something now because everything is competing with each other for my attention, that it does end up resulting in the only things that I see are some of the, you know, it's like the best show of the year, the best movie of the year. And so my value that I get out of media is incredibly high. I mean, more than half the things that I watch, I am beyond moved by. It's like changing, it's like life-changing in some way. You know, I'm seeing stuff that, you know, I've never seen before. I'm seeing the boundaries being pushed of, you know, acting and writing and directing and all these things, and the things that I do watch. I mean, again, like I said, the only 3 shows that I've watched this year are Andor, Severance, and The Last of Us. There are moments in those 3 shows that are some of the best moments I've ever seen on a screen in my entire life. Absolutely incredible. I mean, especially the emotional resonance of some of those scenes in The Last of Us and Andor, that we've spent hours and hours talking about how this has been incredible and transcended Star Wars and been so appropriate for our era, so social commentary, all these things. And so that it's amazing value that so much percentage of my time consuming media is me having these profound art immersion experiences. When go back 10 years, go back 20 years, I'm just going through the motion of watching something to passively watch something that I might enjoy sometimes. It's incredibly different. And so that's the trade-off, is I have that, which is incredible. But the trade-off is, like we were talking about, I have to make peace that there's certain things I'm not going to see, and then I have to deal with the anxiety of how to spend my time.
Mm-hmm. And you know, to the other sort of point, sort of along those lines of like, there's so much out there. There is like, I'll talk for myself. Like part of the reason I haven't rewatched some of the Star Wars shows is like TV shows aren't where my priority is. When I'm thinking about where I'm prioritizing my entertainment, I'm like, movies is my thing. I like something between 90 minutes and 3 hours. Give me something right in there for a story. And so, yeah, a lot of shows that I'll wind up missing because they're like, oh, I'm gonna seek out movies instead. And so I won't say every movie I watch is the greatest movie of all time, but I feel like I get this really like wonderfully broad spectrum of movies that are out there. And like I can watch, and then like each one is different, and yeah, some of them aren't that great, but they still have parts in them where I'm like, that's pretty cool. And then taken together, there's this like sort of wonderful picture of what that medium is capable of and what we can do with it. and so you get like this, having this overwhelming amount of it means that there is something for everybody, and there's something out there, and I find I do find real joy, as overwhelming as I find this amount of media sometimes. I do find real joy in just seeing that like broad spectrum of like, look at how many movies there are, look at how many great movies there are. I keep a list on my phone of like all the movies I watched this year. I've watched 50 movies this year, and like 2 of them have been like, those suck, and the rest of them are somewhere between friggin' amazing and just okay. And each one I'm like, each time I'm happy with it.
Same way. I mean, this year, I've watched Nosferatu, like really unique, cool movie from a movie making perspective, and also pretty dang entertaining as well, fun to watch. The only like cultural zeitgeist movie I've watched so far is Superman, but that's definitely a heck of a cultural zeitgeist movement.
It's pretty great.
And seeing that in theaters was really cool. And then I went back and watched like an old Studio Ghibli movie, Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind, which is just really different, and it just gives you a different perspective on art than Western or modern cinema. And I'm glad that I watched that and experienced something like that. So it's like, it's this broad of, you can go back and watch something from another country or another era that you weren't alive in, and see the best from that, and there's just so many genres that exist, from niche independent projects to the big summer blockbusters that are putting a stamp on the legacy of our culture and civilization.
Because like that's we do spend a lot of time on like kind of the negatives and of like, oh, we don't get to rewatch things, oh, we can't watch everything, oh, we can't do that. But like, if we can step away from that like completionist mentality and just focus on the good stuff that is there, and just focus on what we are capable of seeing, and whatever it is, like you said, whether it's new, old, from here, from the other side of the world, biggest budget in the world, to something that was made with a shoestring budget and shot on an iPhone, like whatever it is, just enjoy it, and just sort of like have fun with the fact that you do have so many options. You do get such a broad spectrum of things that you can watch, and make peace with the fact you can't watch everything, but seek out interesting things. It's all. And
to me, maybe I'm weird, but like, there's some things I don't care to watch. I there's some things that like I recognize that are like some things that like Stranger Things was a show I remember being like, I was peer pressured into watching that show. Like, it was, but it was just like, everyone's watching the show, so I better watch it.
I'm pretty sure that happened on this podcast. I'm pretty sure we bullied you into watching it.
Yeah, probably. But then it's like, oh yeah, this is a cultural phenomenon, I need to get on the board with this. And then I'm like, oh yeah, this is like one of the best shows of all time. So I can't like things, but like there's certain things like I'm not a horror fan. I'm not into that. So it's like there's a lot of things that like Sinners is a movie that I'm like, maybe good. I should, I'm starting to convince myself that maybe I should watch it, but then I'm like, I'm not vampires. I don't know about this. But then I'm like, it maybe I need to step outside my comfort zone because things, but it's just a lot of things like that. And I'm like, there's some things that I really do want to watch. There's some things that I'm like, I don't care. I don't care how popular, I don't care how many people tell me it's good. I'm just not interested. And then but there's plenty more things.
The Squid Game sequels. Like I did like the first Squid Game series. I thought it was really interesting and fun, but I didn't vibe with it so much that I'm like, okay, now I gotta watch season 2 and 3 and 5 and what all.
Yeah. Or like last year, people were big upping. What was that movie? The Substance. I got nominated for a bunch of crap stuff.
Yeah. I watched that. That was something else.
Yeah, I took one look at the poster and read like a description of it. And I'm like, nope, not for me. I
saw makeup tests in the movie. I'm like, nope, not for me.
I can do a little horror when it's more in like the thriller kind of space, like Sinners. I did really like Sinners, and there's another movie out. It's a Canadian flick, but I think it's getting some play in the US. That is kind of a dystopian future things called 40 Acres. That's similar to Sinners in some ways. I saw it recently, really good, but like a little bit of like jump scare, a little bit of like, maybe wanted to hide behind the seat that I was sitting in the theater. Thankfully, there was nobody in the row behind me, so I could have if I needed to. But like something like The Substance that's body horror, or anything where it's like where like the gore is part of the appreciation and not just
the
part of it.
The like Pearl X Maxine trilogy.
Yeah. Like I'm never like Starfighter is going to be the first movie of Mia Goth's that I'm gonna see. I'm sorry. I looked at her filmography and I was like, nope. And like I'm excited that she's gonna be in Star Wars. I look forward to it, and she might be in the Odyssey. I think she's in the Odyssey as well. So maybe I'll see that first. Yeah. But like I looked at those movies, I was like, I don't think so. I'm gonna spend my time on something else. But for other folks, people like that, enjoy it as they should. Anyway, that was an interesting conversation.
See, I told you we'd make something up.
Yeah.
We did indeed. All right. Well, in that case, I think that's this is as good a place as any to leave things and to. I was gonna stall. I was waiting for people that don't know. Chris does the whole show without headphones, but when we get to the end of the show and we do the outro music, that it messes up everything else without having the headphones on. So last week, Chris was like, "Oh, I'm gonna plug in the headphones when you start doing the outro," and then didn't. And then this week, I'm looking at the window where I see you, and I'm like, are you gonna do it? Are the headphones coming out? I'm gonna stall. I'll buy you time. And then you start going, where are they? Looking for them. But
we're good now.
Yeah. So with that, we can begin to wrap things up for this week.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening, for watching the show. We'll be back with another episode, same time, same place next week. If you want to watch the show live, that is at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on Thursdays in the Western Hemisphere time. It is on Fridays in the Eastern Hemisphere, because that's how we've decided to make our clocks work. Yay. So definitely check that out. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting tonight.
Oh, it was my pleasure. As always, it was great fun getting into everything. We did have an interesting conversation about the Emmys, I guess, and then everything that followed. We will find some way to incorporate Clone Wars commentaries back into the show. Damn it. I will figure it out. We have 10 months between now and the next Star Wars movie. We'll get creative and we'll do something fun. Speaking of the Clone Wars, if you want to read some about the Clone Wars, you can do so on my Substack, dominicjones.substack.com. The latest paid post up there is a in-depth analysis and behind-the-scenes look at the episode Destroy Malevolence from season 1, the final episode in the Malevolence trilogy. So if you want to chip in $5 a month, you can read that and a bunch of other stuff, or you can subscribe for free and get a shocking amount of free content up there. And along those lines of the conversation we were just having, I'm working on a post that will go up sometime on Friday of a list of some movies that I really, really enjoyed from the first half of this year. So January 1st to June 30th. I've got a list of 7 movies that I really enjoyed. So if you're looking for something to spend your leisure time on, maybe there's an option for you there. Superman won't be on the list because that counts for the back half of the year. And
yes.
if we cast our minds ahead to December, there's a pretty good chance it's going to be in the top 3. Let's be honest. I really enjoyed that movie. Anyways, so yeah, dominicjones.substack.com, aka Hoth Off the Press. Check it out, and also go listen to Ion Cannon and hear me and Matt and Joel break down Trials of the Jedi. It was a great episode. I can't wait to do all this again in 7 days' time.
Awesome. Check that out, and also make sure to follow Dominic on social media at DominicJ25. But Hart, the Star Wars guy, thank you for hosting as well.
Oh, it was a pleasure as always, and I love that we got over an hour and a half of good podcasting with no news and nothing to talk about. And no, how could we possibly fill this time? It was like just amazing. It's amazing the amount of stuff. And actually, most of this wasn't even talking about Star Wars. So I guess it really is a slow news week. IPC is coming. Okay, I have a lot of thoughts about a lot of things that are not Star Wars. And I've been missing that outlet. And me and Zach were lamenting the other day, like, I really miss podcasting with you. I really miss it. It was brutal. But yes. So if you're looking for more of this, you're in luck. It's coming soon.
Awesome. You can find Ben exclusively on Blue Sky by searching Ben Hart with no E. Hashtag not sponsored. You can find me at Seek3PO. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. And definitely hit that button on your way out if you haven't. Thanks to our super chatters and our channel members for helping pay for all the tech that we use on the show. And make sure the last thing you do before you leave, make sure that you have joined the SWU Network Discord. Link is in the description. After you've joined that, while chatting on Discord, you can check out all the other shows on the network. The Raeside, Ion Cannon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Tractor Beam, and more. So that's it. We'll be back next week. But until then, for Ben and Dom, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
It's a wrap.